Hey guys, welcome back to Medical Coding with Blue. Today's episode is all about how to study the ICD-10-CM coding guidelines. If you are brand new to my channel, welcome. I am Blue, I'm a medical coder. Okay guys, so you often hear me talking about read your coding guidelines, read your coding guidelines, read your coding guidelines, right? Well, I'm going to show you today how to study the coding guidelines, because I will say this reading these coding guidelines is what is going to help you to understand how to code, because coding is not as simple as people like to make it out to be. Oh, you'll be able to use the encoder. Oh, the electronic health record will be selecting the codes and you don't have to worry about all that. The electronic health record does not have the ability to critical think, much like AI, right? Does not have the ability to critical think. That's where we come in. But if you don't know the rules, that's what makes it difficult, and that's where you start to get errors. I'm not telling anybody to memorize these coding guidelines, because that's not what you want to do. These guidelines get updated every single year. As you see here, it says codes valid from October 1, 2024. October 1 is our coding new year, okay, which means the new ICD-10-CM comes out with the guidelines, and that's when those go into effect. All the updates, all the deletions, everything goes into effect October 1. All right. So right now we are in 2025, and I'm going to be reviewing this and how to study them. All right. So this comes from the Optum book, though, as you can see. I will say this is not an ad for Optum. I love Optum. And because I love Optum, I will speak highly of them, because when it comes to the tools that coders use, it should always be really good tools, because that's going to be the difference between you being frustrated with not knowing something and having a better tool to work with that's going to help you to learn. Optum is fantastic for that, and I will always love Optum for that, okay? So I'm going to be doing some more videos this week about the Optum book, and so that way you can kind of see a little bit more of what I'm saying. But every book has the copy of the guidelines in it. Even the AAPC one does as well. So if you have your AAPC book, that is fine. You can follow along with this. If you have the Optum book, even better. But here's the thing. So here's where it starts. This is where the coding guidelines start. Yes, you do need to read this section here, because this section tells you who manages this, the guidelines, who is the one who comes up with the edits and things like that. So all of that information is all right here. This is very important for coders to know. You need to be going through these guidelines one time per week throughout your studies in your program. You need to be adding this on to your study schedule. Now, before you start hyperventilating, because I know some of you say, Blue, that's a lot of reading and I don't understand what it says. You're not going to understand what it says. Do you think I understood it when I first read it? Absolutely not. But it's going to be a repetitious thing. It is going to be a thing of, it's going to make more sense when you get into the real world, okay? But fear not, guys, fear not. Yes, you do need to get through the entire guidelines at least twice. Read them from here to here, all the way to the end. You need to read them all through their entirety, because there's going to be certain parts of these guidelines that's going to really refer to like the inpatient side. So if you're not coding for inpatient, meaning inpatient, you're coding ICD-10-PCS and all that stuff. If you're not using ICD-10-PCS, if you're not coding for the inpatient side, you don't need to worry about certain parts of this, the guidelines, because it's not going to refer to you. You're looking at the outpatient side. And what we're also looking at is the chapter-specific guidelines. So, like I said, once you start reading the guidelines, and we're going to go through this together, you're going to understand what I'm trying to say. So you're going to start here. You're going to end here, all right? You're going to go through them twice. Read them just from top to bottom twice. Read everything. It doesn't matter that you don't understand, that you're confused, because again, that's not important right now. What's important is that you are laying down the primer in your brain for these guidelines. It's the people who are not doing this that are confused, okay? So I'm just letting you know right now, all right? So this first section here is the conventions for ICD-10-CM. So it's going to go into what some of the words mean, what the abbreviations mean, the punctuations, what do they mean. So this section here, what does and, what does with mean? Okay, there's a lot. It gets very technical. But that's just section A. Then there's section B, which is the general coding guidelines. So here is where it's going to start talking a little bit more in detail, sorry guys, about what's happening and what's going on in the guidelines, the level of detail in coding, and then code or codes from A all the way till the N, which is the U codes, right? So it's going to talk about that, signs and symptoms, conditions that are integral, part of the disease process, that kind of thing. And then it's going to keep going. So it's going to tell you a little bit more. It's going to start describing it a little bit more. When to use combination codes, sequela, impending or threatened conditions. What does that mean? Reporting the same diagnosis code more than once, which is kind of funny, but here's a little passage about that. Laterality, and then documentation by clinicians other than the patient's provider. It talks about some of that because you have to know that. And then syndromes, what does that mean? Documentation of complications of care, borderline diagnosis and signs and symptoms, and when to use those. But here is where we're going to really start getting into the nitty-gritty. And while this is going to be important for you to know, this is going to get exercised, all this information in section A, right here, section A and section B. This is going to get exercised while you are practicing coding. But here's the thing, because you're going to be using and with and understanding what those mean. But here, the chapter-specific coding guidelines, this is what I really want y'all to focus in on. After you've gone through these guidelines in their entirety at least twice, you need to start focusing here on the chapter-specific guidelines. There are 19 chapter-specific guidelines. There's more than 19, but there's 22 chapters, but 19 out of the 22 have something to say, okay? Now, like I said, there's a few of them that are going to have that there's nothing right now, but it's going to be, it's holding for like expansion later on, okay? But for the most part, you're going to start here in chapter 1, and it's going to tell you all the guidelines that are specific to this chapter. Now, that's 19 chapters that you got to go through. Now, when I'm telling y'all need to be reading the coding guidelines in their entirety, yes, you do. At least twice, all the way through. But when you start going on the regular, I want you to just focus on the chapter-specific guidelines. Because like I said, you will get practice with and with and all the sequela and stuff like that. You will start to understand this. But it's the chapter-specific guidelines that's going to be the difference between you understanding what you're supposed to code, when you're supposed to code it, and the sequence that you're supposed to code it in. Because a lot of people will tell me that too. Well, Blue, I'm really confused about sequencing. I'm really confused about Z codes. I'm really confused about injury codes, and I don't understand. It's all right here. Literally all right here. So if you want to, every single week, after you've done your 2 run-throughs, the whole thing, if you want to, every single week, there's 19 of these chapter-specific guidelines to read. Okay? 19 of them. You can break them up and read just 4 chapters per day and be done a little less than 5 days. So you're reading a little bit of the guidelines every single day in addition to your studies. And what is that going to do? What is reading every day going to do? Or at least 5 days. What is reading for 5 days? Because I always tell you guys, you study either 5 days a week or you study 6 days a week. It's up to you. But at a minimum, get 3.5 hours per day. 3.5 hours per day can be broken down into 30-minute sessions or 1-hour sessions. You can read for 30 minutes, guys. And if you say, well, Blue, I have a problem with attention span, we need to be working on that, don't we? Right? We need to be working on that because it's not about your attention span, and it's not about how can we make these guidelines sound easier to me. These guidelines are written by doctors and scholars. So it's going to have advanced terminology. It's going to be written in some weird fangled way that doesn't make sense to you right now because you're not a coder. But once you start getting into the repetitiousness of reading and recalling things, because the key to adult education is repetition. And the only way you're going to be able to learn this is by actually exposing your mind and your brain to these guidelines. But like I said, if you read for 30 minutes, or even if you read for 15 minutes and then you take a break and you come back to it, you can certainly do that. But reading the guidelines is not the only way, obviously, to study the guidelines. You can also listen to the guidelines. Now, I've explained it many times in the past on the channel how to do it. I even put the instructions in the description box. However, because so many people complained, and when you're a creator like me and you listen to the people and you're the one who's getting all of the messages, I don't have an assistant. It's just me. 100% of the time, this channel is me. So when I get complaints of people being ungrateful and saying, "Oh, Blue, well, I listened to the guidelines and it just put me to sleep." Do you know that you can change the speed of the voice? You can actually change the sound of the voice as well. So because of that, because I got so many people complaining because they didn't want to listen to it or it's too boring. This is not a circus animal that's going to be here to entertain you. This is to educate you, okay? And then it's the same thing with the guidelines when you're listening to them. So you can listen to them. If you know how to listen to guidelines, on the internet, that's fine. I have the instructions and now I sell them because, again, I was tired of the complaining and it's just ungratefulness. I mean, I'm giving you a free resource and something that make it easier for you to study. And then people complain, "Oh, no, we're not doing that no more." So, like I said, in the description box, if you're interested, you can contact me. But either read them or listen to them. And if you're listening to them, you're going to get maybe 10 to 20% of what you're listening to because you're not looking at it, but you're still listening to it. So you're getting that ambient learning. But still, you still need to make sure that you're making time to actually sit with your book and look at it, okay, and read it. Or even if you're having the computer read it to you, right? Your laptop read it to you, and you can be just following along with it. That's okay too, because again, some of this stuff that you're going to be learning is going to go on autopilot. Your brain is going to have it in your mind already. Like, okay, wait a minute. I know there's something about sequela. Wait a minute. I know there's something about mother baby or sepsis and how to code for sepsis. Let me go back to the guidelines. And you can always go back to the guidelines, guys. You don't have to sit here and memorize everything. Okay? So please don't, because these guidelines do get updated. And by reading them and getting into the chapters specifically, and maybe taking out having part of this that you don't have to really worry about because you're still getting the practice anyway, like with B and part A and the other section back here after the guidelines, the chapter specific guidelines, maybe that might kind of help make it not so overwhelming. So pick 4 chapters to read, stop, and then the next day come back and get the next 4 chapters, and then stop, and then the next day get the next 4 chapters. So that way you're not having to have so much information all at once. You're breaking it down, and then you're being consistent, because then you're doing this every single week. Well, guess what? You start doing this every single week. Guess what happens? You're going to start getting faster and faster with your reading, which is going to be fantastic for you when you are studying for your exam, right? Because your coding exams, these coding exams, the AAPC one, you get 2 minutes, 40 seconds per question. With AHEMA exams, you get a little over 2 minutes per question. 2 minutes, 10 seconds, 2 minutes, 20 seconds, depending on which exam you're taking, right? But that's about the average that you do have per question. So what does that mean? You need to be getting faster with reading. These guidelines are going to be the difference between you coding accurately and if you're not looking at them at all, or you're not taking me seriously, and you're not even trying with these guidelines, you're going to be messing up every single time. And then you're going to be confused and like, I don't understand this, and you're going to get more frustrated. Why? When the answers are right here in the book. All you have to do is look at the guidelines. Because a lot of these questions that I see come in, even on the channel from my older videos when I used to do coding demonstrations, these are simple questions that could easily be answered by having read the coding guidelines. So guys, please take 4 chapters at a time. Or if you're feeling adventurous, you could take 5 and finish it faster. That's okay too. Whatever helps you. Let me get here. So here's where the chapter specific guidelines start. This is chapter 1. So you're going to go chapter 1, all of chapter 1, right? Oops. And then it's quite long because it's these 2 pages here. And then here's the chapter 2. So you're going to read all of this here. Okay. And you're going to read all of that. There, see, there's chapter 3 right there. See, there's nothing there. There's no guideline there in chapter 3 because it's absorbed into the other one. But then here is chapter 4. So your endocrine and metabolic diseases, and you're going to read all of this, right? So there. And you're going to stop right there because that's the end of chapter 4. And you see where chapter 5 starts right there? So that's all you're going to read on the first day. All of this, 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 and this. And you stop there. And then here's where chapter 5 starts. So again, even though, yes, you're technically reading 4, right? Even though it's 3, you're technically reading 3 chapters. But these were long ones. Not all of them are going to be quite as long, right? Because look on day 2, right? You have here from 5. We're going to read from chapters 5 to 9, right? 5, 6, 7, 8. Oh, 8. Yeah, we'll go to 8. Chapter 5, we start here, right? Chapter 6. Look, see how short that is? Chapter 5, you read all of that, and then you read chapter 6, right? Chapter 6 is here. Chapter 6, chapter 7. And then chapter 8, it stops, right? Because there's nothing there. So you can read chapter 9. So you go into chapter 9. I was right. I was thinking that, and I was right. So, oh well, you guys know what I mean. Chapter 9. You read all the way through there. And then chapter 9. And here's chapter 10. That's where that starts. So that's going to be on your 3rd day. So, see, it's not so bad, right? Look at that. 5, 6, 7, right here. 8, we don't do that. And then 9. All the way there. See? Just that, just that, just that, just that, just that, just that. So you see, it's not quite as much as the first day, right? Because the first day you're reading quite a bit. The second day you're getting a little bit of a break, right? And then here, 10, 11, 12, 13, right? Could probably go to 14, but we'll see. Chapter 10 starts here. And these are going each by the chapter that it is, okay? So chapter 10, chapter 11, right? Keep going. Well, see, there's nothing on 11. And there's chapter 12 right there. And you read all of that. Chapter 13 is right there. Chapter 14. What did I tell you? We could probably do chapter 15. And then chapter 15 is right here. That's all of this right here. All this, all this. And it stops right here. Because then we get into chapter 16 right here. So again, not that bad, right? Chapter 10 starts here. That's your third day. You read that, you read all of this, and you read all of this. And then we stop here. And then what I tell you, it's 19 chapters fully that you're reading. Okay? So this is your fourth day. So chapter 16 here, chapter 17, look at that. It's just a couple paragraphs for chapter 17. Chapter 18, right? Right there and right there. And then chapter 19. Here we go. And it's quite long because it's all about like the injuries and stuff like that. So here we go, right there. Okay. And then chapter 20, you can do that one too. That's all your external causes. Okay. I'm trying to see where we started again. Sorry. So this is all chapter 19. I know it's long, but there's chapter 20 right here. And these are all the Z codes, right? When we go into chapter 21. And you can finish it out just by reading that. Okay? Or you can make the Z codes, because that's the end of it right there, right? Because chapter 22 is for like when they had all the other special codes that came out for like vape and stuff like that. There's no guidance there. But 20, 21, and then 22. Okay. So if you wanted to do the Z codes by themselves, you totally could, because it's quite a lot, right? It's from here. 21 is all of this all the way to 22. Okay. So you can make that on a 5th day or a 6th day or whatever you want, right? But this is all of this right here. And that's all you're going to read. Okay. So 16, from chapter 16. And you're just reading that and all of that. And this. Okay. And then, and then 21 is when it starts the Z codes one. And you could do that all by itself because it's a lot. Okay. But that's what you have to do. And you can break it down that way. You do not have to sit through the whole thing in one sitting. Okay. And you can make it fun for yourself either by reading it or listening to it. You know, you can do that. The other ones right here, we have section 3, right? So reporting of additional diagnosis. Wait a minute, did I skip something? I sure did. Section 2 is the selection of principal diagnosis, right? And again, this is in the more specialty side of the house, as far as like, you know, when it's covered all this stuff right here. But section 2, section 3, section 4, and then here's the appendix for appendix 1 for the present on admission reporting. These are important to know, but if you're going to make it more manageable for you to learn the guidelines, I would recommend that you really focus on the chapter specific guidelines. You'll know that the rest of these sections are here. And like I said, if you've gone through it twice, then you've got a good primer understanding of the whole thing. But focusing on the chapter specific guidelines, especially when you're in school, is the important thing. Okay? Now, I want you all to notice something else too. Do you see this? Do you see these pages? Did you see anything that was highlighted? Did you see anything that was written in? Do you see any writing? I use this book on a daily basis. Do you see anything, any markings in here? No, you don't. And the reason that I'm bringing this up is because I'm telling you guys now, for those of you who insist on, well, where do you write your notes? You do not write notes in the guidelines. The guidelines are written by doctors and scholars who know what they're doing. We have to learn to trust these books. You have to. And the only way you're going to be able to do that is either by listening to the guidelines or by reading them. Okay? And breaking it down into manageable chunks so that it's not so overwhelming, that is totally fine. But get through the chapters. Okay? Just get through them. Because when you know these guidelines, or like when you at least have a good grasp, you don't really quite understand them yet because you won't, so you get into the real world. But when you get in the real world, guess what's going to happen? Then you're going to run into a situation where they're going to say something about sepsis coding, and you're going to know it just like that. Why? Because you've been through these guidelines enough. And my channel is not about the shortcuts. It's not about trying to give y'all a false sense of confidence, because that's not what I'm about. I love this field. I love it so much that it's so aggravating when I see that there are these fly-by-night schools that cattle herd people through the programs, giving them a false sense of confidence. And then when they get out in the real world, I'm the one who gets the emails from people saying, Blue, I don't know what to do. I don't understand anything. This is where you start. This is where you start. Reading. Blue, I can't pass my test. Reading. This is what you need to do. This is what you need to do. And I tell y'all this with love. I want y'all to be successful. This is the only way you're going to be able to learn this stuff, is by reading these coding guidelines. And no, it is not a waste of your time. Yes, I have to say that, because I always get somebody who writes me and says, is this a waste of my time? No, but you're wasting my time asking me that stupid question, because that is a stupid question. These are going to be how you're going to know what to code first, or what the rules are, or what you should pick up or what you shouldn't pick up. This is going to tell you. Nothing else other than these instructions. Right? So like I said, you can cover this whole thing, just the chapter specific guidelines. You can cover it in 4 days. You can cover it in 5 days. You can cover it in 2 days if you like. You know, it's whatever is more comfortable for you. But you need to incorporate a little bit of these chapters every single day. Okay? And you know what? Hey, if you're studying and you say, well, Blue, I only have time to read 1 chapter, by all means, my loves, read 1 chapter then. Read 1 whole chapter. Or if you want to skip around and say, well, this chapter's a little shorter, I can read this today, I got enough time. Read that and then mark it off, right? Mark it off on your little calendar that you're keeping track of all your time and stuff. So that way you can be making progress. You know, okay, I read this guideline, and I got to read this chapter, I got to read that chapter. And it's going to make you a faster reader. It's going to build up that muscle. You are going to get stronger. You are going to be more knowledgeable. Because if you've ever watched The Karate Kid, right? What did Daniel-san ask Mr. Miyagi? Why are you having me do all of this extra work and these chores? Wax on, wax off, right? He had him washing cars. He had him doing a certain way. He had him painting the fences, because every single one of those things he was doing to build a muscle, so that when Mr. Miyagi, put up his dukes basically and was ready to engage with Daniel-san, guess what? Daniel-san could actually block all of these things because he knew what moves to make. This is the same thing. Blue, why are you having us do this? I don't understand this. This doesn't make sense to me. Keep doing it. Quit asking why and just do it. Because then guess what happens? You're going to have your Daniel-san moment. You're going to have your Mr. Miyagi is going to ask me a question, and I'm going to know it right then and there because I know the guidelines. I believe in you. You can do this. You've got this. And while it's not the most exciting thing, it's not the most engaging thing in the world to do, is to read these guidelines or to listen to them. It's for your own good. Okay? You don't want to be confused. You don't want to be lost in the sauce. This is what you got to do. I'm just saying. So with that said, I'm going to wrap this one up. Thank you guys so much for joining me. If this video helped you, please like, subscribe, and share. And I'll see y'all next time. Bye.